We are talking, people, about Adrian Lyne's latest erotic thriller. Might be his last film he ever makes, too, unfortunately, because of his age. We're talking about Deep Water, which stars Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas as a married couple who have an open relationship that seems oddly one-sided. And, I was going to say Rita Moreno. And Ana de Armas' boyfriends keep coming up either missing or murdered. And Ben Affleck's character always jokes about killing them, but it might seem like he's not joking. Again, this is actually based on an Agatha Christie story. And it's written by Sam Levinson of Euphoria fame. And I can't remember. I think Zach Helm is the other screenwriter who wrote Mr. Megorium's Magic Emporium with Dustin Hoffman. I'm going to let you, because I have many things to say about this movie. So I'm going to let Andre, you start off. What are your thoughts on Deep Water?
I think this movie had a lot of missed opportunities overall. First of all, the legendary Adrian Lyne, the man behind Flashdance, Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, hell, I'll even say Foxes. This guy is a visual stylist, and yet this movie looks average. It just looks like any other thriller that you would make in this modern era. There's nothing stylish about it. I feel like it could have almost been a comedy instead of a drama because of just
it wasn't a comedy.
I mean, look, there were those moments you would have thought, like you have the guy from Get Out, like it could have gone that way, and you could have made this thing more humorous, and and then you have Ben Affleck basically doing his sad face Ben Affleck all throughout this picture, which now makes me say this is the biggest missed opportunity of this entire picture that would have made a huge difference, would have boosted box office, and would have gotten some controversy. Will Smith should have done this film. It would have been art imitating life. And he would have gotten a second Oscar nomination for this movie because it is just so intense. I'm going to go there. This is the movie he should have done. And you know what? I'm not even going to say Jada should have played the Ana de Armas role because she's the best thing about this film, hands down, like just performance and everything else. Like she's the only real standout. But the rest of this movie, my God, even the people who die one by one who have some relationship with her or happen to know about, whatever's really going on with these deaths, it is just freaking comedic. It is not a serious picture. Brian De Palma could have made this movie and it would have been like a sequel to Raising Cain, which was also intended to be more of a comedy than a thriller. That's how bad this movie is. It is the biggest disappointment in the history of Adrian Lyne's career. And it sucks if this is his final film, because I don't think he'll ever be able to make such a great movie ever again.
Well, yeah, maybe Unfaithful should have been his swan song. But, what else does he have to do? So,
he makes commercials in Europe. That's how he makes his money.
Well, he should have stayed doing that, maybe. He was like, I need to tell a story in more than 2 minutes. But I will say this for this movie. I could have done a deep dive on this movie alone because there's just so many things to dissect and take apart. I even commented to you after we saw the movie X. Like, this movie lacks a scene that X had, which is where after a character's girlfriend performs in an adult movie, he's in the shower crying because of, what he feels is betrayal. And Ben Affleck never does that during this film. He just puffs and puffs, and that is supposed to be us understanding how sad he is throughout this movie, other than his constant sad face. But for the most part, Ben Affleck plays the same character from Gone Girl in this movie, except without his own affairs. That was the film. That was another fault in the film storytelling that I felt like we should understand this open relationship policy other than her saying, "Oh well, if I didn't have these affairs, you'd be bored of me eventually." You know, it's like, did he cheat in the past and it was okay, and she's getting her revenge now? What was, you know? And it's an erotic thriller that only has one real brief sex scene in it. Everything else is sex is hinted at or imagined. And look, you know, Anna de Armas is a beautiful woman, and maybe I understand supposedly them living upstate, there's not that many choices, but could you find better looking guys for her to cheat with? Because I was like, all these, like, except for maybe one guy, I'm like, Ben Affleck's still better looking than all of these guys.
I mean, it was like these old Sade videos where like she's freaking gorgeous, and yet the boyfriends they put around her are like these ugly English dudes. Who's doing the casting for this movie?
It was like the most basic people you could find were cast as her quote unquote lovers. Because again, it's always hinted at. And I mean, you have little Ralph from Get Out, whereas all their friends, do they just think she's heavily flirting, or do they know, like he knows, no, she's fucking all these guys? Because they never say anything. They're just like, hey, man, it's nothing, you know? And it's like, are we supposed to mention all of this? And you say she's one of the best parts of the movie, because literally they should have just wrote femme fatale all on her forehead, because that's what she is throughout. Ben Affleck, they should have just called this cuckold the movie, you know? And I will give special mention to the guy who takes the Columbo role of the movie. This guy who writes mystery novels, who suspects Ben Affleck, but does the worst job of covering up his true feelings. Where so far as he even hires a private detective himself, but at the end has one of the funniest death scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
You know, the other thing about it too is like, okay, the public, especially women, do not want to see Ben Affleck fornicating on screen. It's not a pretty sight. And secondly, what the hell was up with the snails? Does this guy eat snails, or he's just like a fanatic collector of snails that live under his house? That made no sense. I didn't get that correlation with him watching his wife fucking a bunch of dudes and being mad about it.
Well, maybe that was like their artistic license of the film. It was like, hey, he can't be a total killer. This man takes care of snails, you know, and gets insulted when they joke about eating them. He's like, oh, now that's how you knew that guy was going to die. He's like, you want to eat my snails? You fuck my wife and you're going to eat my snails? You know? And I didn't understand the point of I understand, like, with Unfaithful, it was spoiler, it was an accidental killing at the end because his emotions got the best of him. But in this movie, we know one person he killed. They still never answer the question, did he kill the guy in the pool? And we're still wondering about her friend who disappeared. None of that is answered, you know? So it's like, and are we supposed to be rooting for Ben Affleck to get away with all of this? That's where it felt like, okay, these are obviously Alfred Hitchcock touches, but again, I guess it's up to the audience. Do we want to like this character and feel sorry for him? Or should he be reprehensible? But the whole thing is, we can't like Anna de Armas because she's openly having these affairs, you know, in front of his face.
I'm like, the only person that's likable is the daughter, and she hates the mother.
And they make this big point at the end of like her packing the bag and leaving him, and then the daughter just like gets rid of the bags, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I won't leave.
And I'm thinking the daughter's gonna like drown in the pool. Like you're trying to set this whole weird thing up with her as they're about to leave the house, and I'm thinking there's gonna be some tragic consequence for all the craziness that's going on. It's like, no, she just drops luggage in a pool just so she could stop them from leaving. I don't get it. This guy has done better scripts. I mean, other than Flashdance. Flashdance is just Rocky with stripping. But Fatal Attraction was a genius project. That movie could have gone a different way. I know they're trying to do a TV show of it now, but if you didn't make Michael Douglas's character sympathetic with the wife and the daughter, then it would have made the movie a piece of shit. You know, like you would have just sympathized with Glenn Close, but you had to make her crazy enough to hate her and see her get shot at the end by Ann Archer. Here, there's nobody to identify with. Nothing connects. Nothing makes sense. And then, yeah, the hero, the Columbo guy you're talking about who could like blow the whole thing wide open, he dies senselessly. And I'm clapping at the end because of this. Like, I don't like this guy anymore.
Well, here's Deepwater. First of all, for an erotic thriller, it needed more sex and nudity. That's A. You know, even if it wasn't Ana de Armas's character, I don't know how, but throw in some nudity for somebody else. Maybe he accidentally peeps on somebody, because it's a largely sexless erotic thriller.
Wasn't there like the blonde girl that he was talking to that it looked like he was going to have a thing with her?
Yeah, that was the other Columbo's wife.
Yeah, that would have been fascinating if he had a fling with her.
But instead, no, they just share a dance, and she's nice to him. That's about it.
Yeah. What the fuck?
And also, I didn't understand if Ana de Armas is going so far as to tell the detectives, no, my husband killed this dude. Why is he still living at home with him? And you know, and then when she's having lunch with the detective, he just comes up and she just laughs it off like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like that, which made me wonder, does she have a mental illness? Or like they never say she's a nymphomaniac in the film. Is that what it is? Because you know, they keep saying, oh, she's a free spirit. I can see if she was a free spirit and artistic, but she's just a free spirit, and they won't call her a gold digger because Ben Affleck has all this money, so he doesn't have to go to work every day. You know, so it's just like, you know, all he does is ride a mountain bike through most of it.
It's just nails. Jada Pinkett syndrome. I hate to say it, but that's what it is.
I don't know. I am not in that household, so I can't say that is how their life is. If you go with rumors and gossip, maybe. But as far as this film goes, it's like you said, there's just a lot of missed opportunity. But in its own way, it's entertaining because one of those, it's so bad it becomes entertaining because you're like, you'll sit throughout the movie coming up with your own ideas for this movie while you watch it, and they use none of them, you know?
This is the movie that I believe Tommy Wiseau envisioned when he wrote The Room.
Well, but at least Adrian Lyne can direct it better. I'm going to go out on a limb with casting, though. This is the Nicolas Cage movie we've been waiting for. I would like to see Nicolas Cage play the husband because there wouldn't have been all this contained, you know, unhappiness. He would have taken it out, you know. You can still keep Ana de Armas, but I just want Nicolas Cage, you know.
And the snails would have made sense.
But I feel like then we would have gotten a weird scene where he snorts them for some reason.
He likes a fine piece of glass. Why not make chocolate snails and eat them?
That could be his character's like every time he confronts her, like, oh, I was just having some escargot. You know?
The sea writes itself.
Exactly. And I'm going to go out on a limb with him, have him still have a ponytail. So we can really make it seem like it's the 1980s, like all over. But would you recommend Deepwater for anybody?
No. Unless you're going to do a bad movie night for Chinese New Year, I would not recommend this to my friend's wife if it was available.
I'm sorry. I would totally recommend only for bad movie nights. If you need something just entertaining, or if you're under the influence of something, alcohol, something herbal, I think this is the movie you should watch because I think you will be very entertained with the expressionless acting of Ben Affleck.
And drop some acid while you're at it.
Well, the thing I wanted, my favorite Ben Affleck scene of all time, I don't know if you ever saw Changing Lanes.
Yes, I did.
Remember when he had Samuel L. Jackson's character arrested? He's like, yeah, that's right, motherfucker. And he's doing all that. That is the type of energy this movie needed from Ben Affleck.
But that Ben Affleck no longer exists. It's just him thinking he's Batman every time.
Well, I need something more energetic. even at times I kept thinking maybe Matt Damon would have been a better choice, because at least it would be something he's never played before. And here I just feel like we're watching Ben Affleck repeat himself. But I still would recommend for Bad Movie Night. So
yeah,
that is our review of Deep Water by Adrian Lyne, which is still available on Hulu as we speak.